same incredible, absolutely unbelievable brazenness. The East Area rapist is once again struck in precisely this same neighborhood.
There's just no evidence to give any firm lead.
The most disturbing thing of all is that everyone knows he will strike again unless he is caught.
While the East Area rapist was terrorizing the residents of Sacramento in the late 1970s, the main suspect, who is now in custody, Joe DeAngelo, was living an unassuming life in nearby Auburn. I visited his old house on Granite Lane to talk with his former neighbors, including Jim Stansel. As a teen, he had befriended DeAngelo.
We just developed kind of a friendly relationship, you know. And he would make wooden model boats that you would float in the lake and put little servo motors in and things like that. And so we just kind of hang out with him and help him with things around the garage.
Your friendship with him kind of grew where he would have you guys help out around the house, right?
Yeah, around the outside, just helping with some gardening sometimes and things like that.
Did he ever take you guys anywhere?
He took us for ice cream a few times. The weirdest thing is that he would be, most of the time he was really pretty nice guy and very comfortable with us. But whenever he would lose his temper, he would lose his temper.
You saw him fly off the handle a couple of times.
Something small could set him off. I remember my friend at one point in time, we were doing something in there and he had a soda and he knocked his soda over on the floor and he just literally started screaming, ranting and raving about, "This is on the floor, you can't do it." And we were just kind of taken back by it.
DeAngelo was fond of Jim, but Jim's sister, Cheryl, says he was less fond of her family's poodle and that their dog's barking would send their neighbor into fits of rage.
He would come out yelling and screaming and cussing and shut that effing dog up. And so that was our experience of him is, you know, we knew he was a cop and we knew he was a little crazy.
And you had a nickname for him.
I called him Crazy Cop Joe. Most of the teenagers did because he was just a little off. And you'd have moments where he would explode and you'd hear him in his backyard screaming and cussing and yelling. At one point even, our dog was poisoned. And my mom accused him of it because he was constantly yelling about the dog. My mom didn't want us to be around him because I think she had that sense as a mom that something wasn't right, he was not safe.
But a young Jim had a very different impression of DeAngelo.
Everybody looked up to the police, you know. I still do, but back then I just thought, wow, neat, a police officer.
You described going over to his house probably 2 or 3 times a week. Did you see anything?
Nothing that ever really jumped out at me. There was a couple times when we took his car to take the boat out, and I always just remember when we'd open up the back, he had like a little bag in the corner and he had like some gloves in the corner. And I think maybe a flashlight, I'm trying to remember if he did, but I never even really gave it a thought because he was a police officer, you know, because it
could have been easily explained away. Did you ever go inside his house?
Yeah, I would probably say, oh, maybe, guessing maybe 8 to 10 times.
Jim took me on a tour of Joe DeAngelo's old home. Does this, coming here and seeing, this is where you guys run around with your bikes, right?
This is where we would play, and yeah, this is all really strange.
Do you recognize it?
To say I'm uncomfortable would be an understatement right now.
It was haunting to walk through the same rooms as an alleged serial killer. Jim tells us he never made it back into these bedrooms of the house, but the person who was here was Joe DeAngelo's wife, Sharon. She was going to law school. She was studying. She was here that whole time with her husband. On occasion, Stansel would catch a glimpse of Sharon.
And she would come out of the bedroom usually, and she was polite, I remember.
What was their relationship like that you could see?
From what I saw, not a whole lot of interaction.
I never saw his wife.
What do you mean you never saw her?
I just recently found that he was married. I just recently found this out.
Fellow officer Nick Willick visited DeAngelo at his home and noticed something about the couple's sleeping arrangements that, in retrospect, could be significant.
I thought that the fact they had separate bedrooms, which I thought was a little strange, you know, particularly a young person.
They had separate bedrooms?
They had separate bedrooms. And
How could you tell that they had separate bedrooms?
Well, he told me. He says, well, this is my wife's bedroom, this is my bedroom.
What did you immediately think when he said that
I just
to you?
thought that was a little strange.
When you look back now with what he's accused of during that period of time, does it then potentially make sense?
Well, I'm sure it could have been easier for him to sneak out of the house at night and to re-enter the house at night if he was committing crimes.
Because she wasn't in there. She was sleeping in another room.